The pirates. Jean-Luc, you said that it was a joke. Victor notes calmly, even as he tries not to gawk at the fact that Jean-Luc does in fact have an overabundance of butter. An overabundance of butter that he has in fact shipped over to Shellgather in order to encourage a feast and promote a product. That, and apparently Jean-Luc wanted some for himself, so he was showing up with an ingredient. The joke is that it's possible to have too much butter. It's not, Jean-Luc says, and Victor huffs in frustration, but welcomes the man's presence regardless. Apparently, the violent Frenchman was more offended at the lack of good food than he had been publicly letting on, as he had apparently been funding a huge amount of efforts to make a mass amount of human-tasting foods that non-humans could actually eat without spontaneously combusting or going into mass organ failure. Apparently, garlic butter was his latest smash success that he had been too busy selling to actually crow about. Victor is going to have to ask for a look at Jean-Luc's profit margins. If selling food is better than selling medicine, he's going to have to shift his focus on things ever so slightly. Of course, there's always the consideration that a market can easily get oversaturated. The butter is warmed, and the deep scuttler that he killed has all its limbs torn off to be boiled in different pots. There's a bit of a mess as he helps peel away the shell around the main body and finds that although the organs of a deep scuttler can be best described as simple, they're still in a shattered state due to his kicks and need to be literally hosed away before it can be eaten. The main body goes on a grill over an open flame as Jean-Luc is painting it with a bucket of his garlic butter and adding all sorts of little extras that add flavor without actually hurting anyone. The legs and claws merrily boil away and the brown of the shell turns a bright cherry red. The feast is small, more a snack really, as one deep scuttler for an entire town is slim pickings. But everyone gets a taste at least, and Jean-Luc promptly gets himself numerous requests for the butter, and he passes out numerous pamphlets and little brochures of the products he's selling. Well played on his part, especially as the butter had made the meal. The deep scuttler hadn't had much taste of its own, but carried taste like an absolute champion and had a wonderful texture. So what do you think? Tasty? Should we add hunting deep scuttlers to the list of products? Besides the fact that they're very powerful and dangerous, absurd super soldier silliness that you can do aside, my lord, they're the prey of the mirage whales. I don't want to potentially upset a being so large that it can be walked upon by a whole family while it sleeps with its nose in the air. Beatrice says, and Victor can nod at that logic. That said, it may be wise to have a few locals start training up to an undaunted level. I understand it seems, daunting, but it is worthwhile. Victor notes, is it true that you recruit only men? Beatrice attests, and Victor blinks. No, but we do give preferable treatment to men that sign up. This is mostly because for humans, men are the warriors and hunters, but also in that many men lack direction and purpose in the galaxy at large. Time in the military is many things. Purposeless is not one of them, Victor says. Would you be willing to train apprentices? She asks and Victor considers. I hadn't considered an apprentice system before. Mass training is how I received my own abilities. If we download basic into their heads with the speed-up method, then we could help them personally. If we're just doing one or two, Jean-Luc says, as he walks over, the conversation could have been private, you know? Victor chides him. Was it? Jean-Luc challenges. No, but honestly, man, sure. Anyways, I heard something about training the locals more. I'm surprised you haven't pushed that harder. There is a great deal of damage to reverse after the pirate gangs cleared the boats away. The towns need time to find their bearing again, Victor says. And in the meantime, we've already been attacked more than once. The sooner you have someone here that you can trust to at least slow down, if not outright stop an enemy attack, the better. Yes, but if there's nothing here to protect, because the infrastructure and livelihoods of the people have been neglected, then it's just empty land of little value, Victor says frankly. Well, how much time do you have yet? We've been on here for just about a year now. How much do you want to bet that we're due for another idiot any day now? Jean-Luc asks. And what do you suggest then? Grab everyone who looks like they can hold something vaguely threatening and download the undaunted training into their minds before running them ragged until they could conceivably conquer a planet on their own? Well, I was thinking more about looking into what our good Duchess has been doing with Moira Octillery. Knights. I see, Victor notes. Well, I'll need to get a training arena finished first. 3, in fact, aerial combat, grounded combat, and aquatic combat. Or you could do what I'm going to do soon, Jean-Luc says, and Victor slowly turns to regard him fully. Tournaments. Public entertainment too. Bread and circuses are easy when you've funded a dozen bakeries and are setting up the tents for the show. Is this a strange way for you to challenge my territory? Victor asks. What? No. No. Yes. Victor just gives Jean-Luc the stink eye. I'm not just challenging you, but we do need this world to have a bit more of a martial culture. Tournaments to celebrate strength and unity. Jean-Luc says, take it from a Frenchman, it doesn't matter how many wars you win, you just need to lose once or twice to get a reputation for it. And take it from a Russian, forcing people into jobs they don't want does not work for anyone. Victor returns. Jean-Luc remarks before looking out over the water shell gather is built on. Just consider it. Not only will you be part of this, but so will everyone else. You've spoken to the others? You're the last. Even Franklin? You were underwater for about an hour. I was talking to everyone then, but you were in potentially hostile territory. Potentially hostile? To your virginity? Jean-Luc jokes, and Victor raises an incredibly unimpressed eyebrow. Right, anyways, what do you think? I think that if you want to have a traveling tournament, that's fine. You're being very circumspect about this. Not everyone was too happy with the idea that I wanted to have a tournament, Jean-Luc admits. Why? Duchess Lilpaw wants to have knighthoods and things like that as a reward for recruitment, as she's done with Moira. Franklin is thinking about opening up Axiom colleges to train people to use it the same way he does. Marcus wants more organized legions, and basically it keeps going. Everyone has their own ideas. Jake scares me the most in that he simply wants to up-arm everyone to the point that trying to take any city or town will be met with a wall of laser fire and plasma. Well, if you try to phrase it differently, it could work out the same way for you without stepping on too many toes. Victor notes even as he sees a few smaller children of the community deciding that they wanted to steal the shell left over from the deep scuttler and were running off with part of a leg segment over their heads and their mother chasing after. Anyways, this is a conversation for more formal consideration, not just you trying to ambush me with the idea. Right, well, I'm just floating it for now. We have our fleets, we have our crews, we have the Barons protecting areas, and defensive satellites. We're looking into massive shields, and we are training a legitimate army. I just want some kind of stopgap. Local wardens or officers, Jean-Luc says. I understand, but it's still something that needs more consideration. It's not a bad idea, but it needs a bit more meat on it than just a basic description. What level of training and... I just said this was for more formal settings. I'm done discussing this for now, please, Victor says, and Jean-Luc sighs. Fine, fine. My little mining towns will figure something more out, Jean-Luc says as he considers. Are you sure that these deep scuttlers won't be up for trade? They're tasty enough to make a good lobster substitute. They're entirely for the mirage whales. Unless you want to negotiate with them, you're not getting anything other than the very rare catch. Well, do keep me on the short list for people to sell them to. I love lobster, so I'll pay very well for deep scuttler, Jean-Luc says. Still, if there's nothing more for me to gain here, and no jumping for joy at my tournament idea, I'll just be heading home then. It was wonderful to meet you all, and best of luck with this place, Victor. I'm sure you'll have all kinds of fun with it. It's not about fun, it's about duty. I'm sure it is, Jean-Luc says. Just try to have some fun before you crack, okay? With that, Jean-Luc finds his way back to his own transportation, handing out the rest of his little pamphlets and advertisements as he does so, and blasts away. Excuse me? A young voice around Victor's thigh asks, and he looks down to see a young boy, one with very watery eyes and a clear amount of fear on his little Mara face. Yes, young man? Victor asked, kneeling down to be closer and less intimidating. Someone said you want to train up men to be warriors. Does that mean me? You're too young, maybe for the cadet program we've got, but not for actually fighting in battle. What's a cadet? Someone who gets the easier training and jobs. Think of it like proper practice for training and being a military man. Is it hard? For some people, it's very hard. Being military isn't for everyone. But for those that fit in with the military, it's great. It was great for me when I was younger. Before I could even legally drive a vehicle, I could shoot many kinds of guns, set up a camp, and knew how to call in coordinates for an attack or artillery strike, Victor says with a smile. In some ways, I've been military since I was as big as you. You were as small as me once? Everyone starts off small and weak, even undaunted, even primals. You need to work at being strong to actually be strong. Victor assures the young man. Now, if you want to join a cadet program, that can be done. It does, however, work at a central location. So for part of the day, you'll be far away from here. But you'll be with other children who want to grow and be strong enough to fight for Vuxa. I want that. Do you? Well, a moment, please, Victor says as he starts patting at his pockets. He finds it in his inside vest pocket. Here we are. Bring this to your family, your mother, head mother or father. Tell them you want to be a cadet. What is it? The boy asked, taking it. It's the answers to several questions that come up a lot and ways for them to learn more. We're not recruiting any cadets without parental permission. Oh, the boy says. What's wrong? Victor asks. I'm adopted. The boat thieves. Oh, I see, Victor says as he thinks. And your adoptive family, are they treating you well? They are. It's just I miss them, the child says, and Victor nods. And you always will. But that's something that becomes easier to deal with. You're getting a little stronger to hold that up. That's what it means to be alive, Victor assures him. Okay, the little Mara boy says. How about I walk you home then? Victor offers. Okay, the boy says, and Victor stands up straight as he gives Beatrice a questioning look. She nods. Which way, little man? Victor asks, and the Mara boy points down the town. His name is Drake, Beatrice whispers to Victor as he starts to follow her. His family was made an example of. The whole community took him in after that. It became the Kelpnot family officially after the Night of Blood. Got it, Victor confirms. Thank you. My pleasure, Beatrice says as she follows along, clearly interested in how he intends to deal with the family. And 400 more brain not found. Yay gods.